I couldn't believe what I saw with my own eyes. Imagine, in the 21st century, when we fly into space and create artificial intelligence, on the other side of the world there exists a ritual that changes the fate of every girl in the tribe. Here, it is not a choice. Here, it is a law from which there is no escape. It is a ritual that fills some with pride, and others with shock and horror. I traveled to one of the most remote places on the planet, the Omo Valley in Ethiopia. Here, among the scorching plains and dusty winds, lives the Daasanach people, a tribe of warriors, herders, and keepers of ancient traditions that have remained unchanged for hundreds, perhaps even thousands, of years. Every ceremony is part of their soul. But one of them stands out above all. This is Dimi, a ritual considered mandatory for every girl who reaches a certain age. And here's the striking part: if a girl does not go through Dimi, she can never get married, and she will no longer be seen as a full member of society. For them, it is the same as exile. There are no compromises here. There is no right to say no. This is a tradition passed down from generation to generation, and refusing it means challenging the very meaning of life in the tribe. When I entered the village, my attention was immediately drawn to symbols visible to everyone. On some huts hung the skin of a leopard. In their culture, this means that a girl in that house is preparing for Dimi. The leopard is an enemy of the tribe, and its skin symbolizes the transition from childhood to adulthood. Near the houses stood long sticks. A large stick meant there was an older girl inside, ready to become a woman. A smaller stick meant a younger girl. Some homes had 2 or 3 sticks. But what actually happens during this ritual? It is not just a celebration, it is a multi-stage process lasting for months. It begins with dances and songs. Parents dress in traditional clothing, leopard skins, ornaments made from ostrich feathers, their bodies painted with clay, charcoal, and ash. This is not only decoration, but also spiritual protection. The dances are hypnotic, the movements repeating as if measured by centuries. However, at the heart of this ritual lies something many in the modern world would call barbaric. The climax of Dimi is a mutilating operation on the female genitals. Here, it is done the same way it was hundreds of years ago, with a sharp knife, in a single motion, without anesthesia. The purpose is to deprive the woman of the ability to feel physical pleasure. For us, this sounds like a nightmare, but for them, it is considered an honor and a duty. Locals are convinced this is how it has always been. They believe that without it, a girl cannot become a true woman. They are certain that the ritual protects their culture, preserves the purity of the bloodline, and strengthens the bond with their ancestors. I asked one of the elders, what happens if a girl refuses? His answer was cold and straightforward: without Dimi, our family will be cursed. No one will marry her. She will live as an outcast. Imagine that for these girls, this is not just a ritual, it is a ticket to life. They are only 15 or 16 years old, yet they already know, the day of Dimi is the day they will cease to be children. I saw their eyes. There was no fear. Not because it is easy for them, but because they grew up believing that this is how it must be. Here, no one argues. No one asks questions. And all of this takes place against the backdrop of breathtaking landscapes, where every sunrise looks like a painting. But behind this beauty lies a harsh reality. Even the Daasanach homes have changed. They used to be made from animal skins, but now more often from metal and plastic found in abandoned places. Yet the Dimi ritual remains unchanged. I stood in the center of the village, surrounded by people preparing for the celebration, and I realized I was witnessing not just a ritual, but a moment that would define the entire life of these girls. Every movement, every song, every drop of paint on their bodies is a code woven into their culture. And it is exactly this code they will pass on to their daughters. By the way, if you've watched up to this point, I'm sure this story has grabbed you. Subscribe right now and turn on notifications, because ahead are even more shocking details you won't see on the news. Watch this video until the end to understand what this ritual hides behind its beautiful songs and dances. Because the most terrifying part does not happen in the square or in front of everyone. The true trial awaits the girls behind closed doors, where only the older women are present. They believe that their hands are the hands of fate. That this moment is a blessing, and pain is the path to purity. And perhaps, this is exactly what makes Dimi one of the most controversial traditions on earth. The deeper I immersed myself in the life of the Daasanach people, the more I realized that Dimi is not just a ritual, it is an entire system, where every step has been refined over centuries. Even the preparation begins long before the actual ceremony. A mother starts training her daughter from early childhood, teaching her special songs, dance movements, the right posture, and manners meant to show that she is worthy of becoming a woman. On the eve of the ritual, the village turns into one big camp. Relatives arrive from the most distant settlements, sometimes from hundreds of kilometers away. People walk for days under the scorching sun, carrying gifts, livestock for sacrifice, and decorations. It is both a celebration and a test for the family, because the richer and more magnificent the Dimi is, the higher the family's reputation will be. There are also strict taboos. For example, during this period, the girl cannot touch certain objects and cannot look into the eyes of men except her father and brothers. It is believed that a gaze can take away part of her strength and make the ritual less successful. Food is brought to her by elder women, and she must eat from separate dishes. The ritual itself is not a one-day event. It begins with mass dances, where men and women whirl in clouds of dust to the beat of drums that echo the rhythm of a heartbeat. To an outsider, it may seem like chaotic frenzy, but in reality, every movement has meaning, symbolizing the girl's journey from childhood to maturity. When the dancing ends, the most challenging stage begins. The girl is led into a hut where men are forbidden to enter. There, elder women who have gone through the same path welcome her. They paint her face and body with protective patterns. Sometimes, the designs mimic animal stripes so that forest spirits cannot find and harm her during the ritual. The women firmly believe they are doing everything for the girl's future. They tell her stories of their ancestors, explaining that pain is a part of her transition to adulthood, and through it, she connects with the spirits. To them, this is not an act of cruelty but of love. I learned that some families possess special talismans. They may be ancestral bones or fragments of old jewelry passed down through the female line. These are placed on the girl's body to ensure the ritual's success. From the outside, it all appears like a colorful celebration, but if you stay long enough, you begin to see the invisible line between joy and fear. No one knows exactly how the operation will go. There have been cases where girls lost too much blood or took weeks to recover. But such things are spoken of quietly, almost in whispers. The elders are convinced that without Dimi, the tribe would lose its soul. They believe it is the only way to preserve their identity in a rapidly changing world. Any outside attempt to stop the ritual is seen as an attack on the very essence of their people. And the longer I stayed here, the harder it became to divide the world into right and wrong. For us, this may be shocking, but for them, it is a symbol of pride and strength. In this clash of cultures, there are no simple answers. I saw girls emerging from the ritual wearing new ornaments. They were given necklaces and bracelets that would accompany them for life. They could no longer play with children, now they attended women's gatherings, helped cook food, and cared for livestock. Childhood ended in a single day. And while we may see it from the outside, their eyes burn with confidence. They know they have fulfilled their duty to their family, their clan, and their ancestors. Yet behind that confidence, there is always a question they will never voice. What if things could have been different? In every village, there are stories that almost no one dares to speak aloud. These are tales about those who tried to avoid Dimi. Usually, they are girls who had spent too much time living in neighboring towns or in missionary camps. They had already seen another world, one where this tradition does not exist, and upon returning home, they try to refuse it. But in the tribe, such a decision is seen as a disgrace. Relatives begin to persuade them, sometimes even pressure them, and if the girl still insists, she can be deprived of her place in the home, stripped of her jewelry, and even completely ignored. Here, exile is not a metaphor but a harsh reality. For a nomadic people, it means total isolation, because without family support, survival is almost impossible. There is also another, even darker side. Sometimes the ritual is performed not during the official days of the celebration but in secret, to avoid interference from outside organizations that try to ban this practice. In such cases, the ritual takes place at night, inside a small hut, lit only by the fire. There is no music, no dancing, only elder women who do everything quickly and silently. I heard a story from a man who confessed that his sister went through Dimi in exactly this way. She was against it, but the family decided otherwise. A week later, she was already smiling and saying that it was over, but something in her eyes had changed. He told me, since that night, she never looked at me the same way. It was as if part of her stayed in that evening and never came back. However, for the Daasanach people themselves, such cases are not seen as tragedies but as inevitabilities. They believe that every woman must endure pain to become a worthy keeper of the lineage. Without it, they say, the spirits of the ancestors will turn away. Interestingly, in recent years, modern elements have begun to creep into the ritual. Some families order bright fabrics from towns so that the girls look wealthier. Sometimes they use not only natural dyes but also cosmetics brought by market traders. However, the actual process of the ritual remains unchanged. There are also secret signs that can be seen if one pays close attention to the participants' clothing. For example, on the first day of preparation, the girls wear necklaces with a specific number of beads, indicating how many generations in their family have undergone Dimi. The longer the necklace, the greater the family's pride. And at the moment the girl leaves the hut after the ritual, she wears a special headband that she must keep on for exactly 7 days. Removing it earlier is forbidden according to their beliefs, it would bring misfortune. What also struck me is that some families have special songs sung only during this moment and never again. These melodies are passed down through the female line, and no one outside the family ever hears them. They are like personal prayers to the ancestors, asking for their blessing. I began to realize that Dimi is not just a single day of pain, it is an entire system of beliefs, fears, and hopes that runs through the entire life of the tribe. From the birth of a girl to her wedding, everything is tied to this event. Even the husband she will one day choose will judge her not by beauty or character but by how she went through this ritual. And that is why any attempt to abolish Dimi is perceived here as a personal insult. For us, it may seem like a violation of human rights, but for them, it is a threat to the very survival of their people. I kept wondering what will happen in 20 or 30 years. Will this tradition survive, or will it dissolve under the pressure of the modern world? But looking at the girls who are already preparing for their own Dimi today, I understood as long as the elder women of the tribe are alive, this chain will not be broken. Morning of the ritual arrives. The sun has not yet risen, but the village is already coming to life. Women light the fires, while men walk far away, as if they don't want to witness what is about to happen. In truth, many of them watch from a distance, pretending they are not there. The girls who are about to undergo Dimi have been awake since dawn. They are forbidden to eat or drink until the ritual is over. It is believed that an empty stomach makes them purer. Special patterns made of white clay are drawn on their faces. These are not mere decorations, the shape of the design reveals the clan each girl belongs to. Inside the hut where it will all take place, it is quiet, but the air feels thick and heavy. Fresh animal hides cover the floor, and bunches of herbs hang overhead, infused with smoke. The scent is so strong it makes the head spin. Elder women enter and check the tools. They are kept in a small pouch that no one but them is allowed to touch. When everything is ready, the girl is called by name. There are no long ceremonies here. She is led inside, seated on the hide, and it begins. No songs, no prayers, only the concentrated faces of women, quick movements, and the muffled sound of metal. Outside, noise begins to rise. Young women who have already gone through Dimi start clapping their hands and singing. The singing drowns out the cries from inside. For them, it is a way to give support, and for everyone else, a sign that another girl has become a woman. After it is over, she is brought outside. She walks slowly, her legs trembling, but there is something new in her eyes, a mix of pain and pride. A ceremonial headband is placed on her head, and she is given a small staff, the symbol of an adult woman in the tribe. But the most dangerous part begins afterward. For the first 7 days, she must sleep alone, on a mat in a small hut where only elder women may enter. They change her bandage, treat the wound with herbs, but sometimes infection still sets in. I once heard a story of a girl who did not survive this period. Officially, no one spoke of it, but at night, the men buried her outside the village so as not to disturb the spirits. Men seem absent from this ritual, but in truth, they are the ones who decide when it will take place. Sometimes fathers deliberately delay Dimi in order to marry their daughter into a more advantageous clan. In some cases, the ritual is held right before the wedding, then the groom attends the celebration, but is removed during the procedure itself. A few weeks after Dimi, the girl is already considered ready for marriage. She may be presented to potential suitors, and the fewer visible marks left from the operation, the higher her family's value. It is an unspoken rule, men never say it aloud, but it is always there. The most chilling thing is that some girls start to take pride in what they have endured. They convince their younger sisters not to be afraid, saying it connects them to their ancestors. When I heard this, I realized Dimi lives not only in the hands of the elder women, but in the minds of those who have already accepted it as part of their identity. The tribe believes that without Dimi, a woman cannot give birth to healthy children, and if she does, their spirits will be weak and vulnerable. For them, this is not a matter of choice, it is a matter of the clan's survival. And it is this belief that makes the ritual almost impossible to eradicate, no matter how barbaric it may seem to us. You won't believe it, but attempts to stop Dimi often lead to real tragedies that almost no one talks about. When the first missionaries and human rights activists began arriving in the areas where the Daasanach live, they were immediately met with unwavering resistance. The people of the tribe saw it as an attack on their culture, on the most sacred thing they have. There were cases when families who refused to perform the ritual faced a true boycott. Neighbors stopped talking to them, children in the village refused to play with their children, and women who hadn't undergone Dimi became outcasts. The social pressure was so strong that many, afraid of losing the community's support, eventually agreed to the ritual despite fear and doubt. Some girls tried to escape to the cities, but far from home they were hunted by relatives or even hired people to bring them back. There was a case when a young girl hid with a Christian community, but after several months the tribe discovered her location. This caused a scandal that was quickly hushed up, yet rumors about it still circulate. Human rights activists try to help by organizing educational programs and providing medical aid, but the tribe treats these initiatives with distrust. Even the simplest medical advice is perceived as an attempt to destroy traditions, and many reject any help. But imagine this, despite all the bans and threats, there are women who have begun to speak out against Dimi. They risk everything, their position in the tribe, their relationships with family, even their lives, to tell the truth to the world. Their voices are growing louder, and they can no longer be ignored. However, the most shocking fact is that some of these women admit that despite all the pain and suffering, the ritual gave them a sense of strength and belonging that is hard to put into words. It's a paradox that is difficult to understand from the outside, but it's exactly what keeps the tradition alive. If you want to know how attitudes toward Dimi are changing today and what secret steps are being taken to overcome it, subscribe to the channel and watch the video until the end. In the next parts, I will tell you about the modern technologies and social movements that are shaping the future of this ritual. You'll learn how the younger generation is fighting the tradition from within, and what unexpected consequences this has for the entire tribe. Don't go anywhere, the most interesting part is yet to come.